Is it recording? Yeah, okay. Alright, so this is the second day of your pinch pots, okay? So I left them unbagged for a day in your cabinet so they could stiffen up a bit. So ideally they should feel almost leather hard, but not that stiff. Not as stiff as when we did our chip and dips, okay? So if yours don't feel that way, you should blow dry them. If you never got a chance to finish like paddling or whatever you had to do on Thursday and you bagged it, then you need to continue paddling. And if you have time, blow dry it before you start what I'm showing today. But our next goal is to get feet attached and then to start thinning out our pots. So remember we did feet on the chip and dip. We did the basic like little coil around the bottom, and that's still something you can do. Or on our handout, remember there's all different kinds of different things you can try for a foot, okay? So I'm gonna show a few things and then you guys can decide what you wanna do. So for this, we're not gonna use the coil extruder because it's so small. You're just gonna make your own coils. So to make your own coil, I have wedged clay here. I'm gonna roll it into a little sausage, and then I have to use this because I'm on the wedge table because of the cloth, but you guys can do it right on your table. So I'm just going to roll that out, just roll in a little clay snake. And that's how I made this one here. So this one here was just, I wrapped the coil in a swirl, slipped and squirted it on, and then smoothed it. You could also use that to just make your basic, you know, little foot. Maybe some of you want taller feet, so you could add another coil on top of that, and on top and on top and on top. So I think those guys who had like the wine goblet kind of stem. Was you, right? Both of you guys? Yeah. So this is how you would do it. You would just keep adding them and then smoothing them together. Okay, so that's something you could do. Some people talked about doing little legs. So I just roll this little nugget right here. And then I would slip and score them here. Roll another little nugget. Slip and score. Pretend these are even for the sake of the demo. And then a little nugget here. So the reason I do three will always level itself out. 4 can be tippy. So like, you know, you have chairs that somehow they just don't sit flat. That's what happens with 4. 3 will always level itself out. So I recommend 3, but if you just really like the look of 4, then go ahead and do 4. For this one here, I just made like a flat little slab, and for something this small, you do not need to go get a rolling pin and all that stuff. You're just gonna get a scrap piece of paper, and the scrap piece of paper is on the table in front of my desk, and that whole basket is just all scrap junk paper you can use. Because if I did this right on my table, it would stick to the table. So I can use the back of my fettling knife and just roll that out a little bit.
Are we gonna take our bowls home?
When we glaze them, yep. So once everyone gets their art fees paid, we can start to glaze. So I can roll out this mini slab and I can do all kinds of things with it. I can, like I could cut some nice little chunks. And I could put like, I could do one here. I probably should have measured that. So this one's the same. And I could put that, I could put this one here, and that could be my foot. Of course, you need to slip and score anytime you're adding clay to clay.
Can we just do any foot we want?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like from that handout, you can do any kind of foot you want. It just needs to be slipped and scored. Okay, so let's pretend I slipped and scored these on, okay? Since they are brand new, you might want to hit them with the blow dryer a little bit before you flip them upside down for the next step. So remember the inside of ours was like really thick and nasty, ugly to start with. Now that they're stiffer and can hold their own shape, we're gonna scoop them out. So what I like to do first is give myself like a little guide of how thin I want to get it. So I'm just going to draw myself a little line. And it doesn't have to be like the absolute guide, but just to get me started. Okay, so we have a new tool name to learn. We're going to use a loop tool, okay? It really doesn't trick you. It has a loop on each side, so it's called a loop tool. We're going to use this for scooping out our insides, okay? I'm going to just take those off. So, when we scoop, your outside shape should kind of reflect your inside shape. So if you had a square pot, it'd be a good idea to make your inside a square too, is not a circle. So just kind of follow along. I'm going to start at my top, I'm gonna dig down and start taking clay out. Okay, so that's pretty thick. Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of that out. You want to do this holding it in your hand, because holding it in your hand you can tell like if you almost went through and made a hole. If you're sitting on the table and you're just going at it like crazy, you pop a hole in it, you never do until like, oh crap, I put a hole in it. So make sure you're holding it in your hand so you can feel if you're getting too close. And when you do this, try not to like do one that shallow and then this one like all gross like this, because then when you go to smooth, it's going to be harder to do. So you want to try to dig this out as evenly as possible, so that when you get to the point where you're just ready to smooth, it'll be an easy, quick process. Now also, these are stiffer, but they're not like so stiff where you couldn't take a paddle to them today and like kind of correct some of your edges. Maybe you want them to be really crisp, so you could go back with that paddle and give it a little tap now that they're stiffer. That's okay. You might also want to, you see my outside of this rim is pretty uneven, so I'll show you how we can even that up a little bit too. So I could take this tool and do this along the outside to like crisp it up. I could also take my fettling knife and kind of crisp it up so that it's even. You could also, you know, use a rib tool and scrape. So there's lots of things we can use. You just got to figure out what tool you like to use the best and what's gonna work out for you. But our goal today is to get this all scooped out. Our walls should appear even at the rim, okay, so all the way around. And then when you have it scooped out, you want to smooth those tool marks away, okay? It should be even throughout. If you have lumps and bumps in here, that means you need to take the scraper back and even it out until all your walls are even throughout. Okay, does that make sense for our goal today? So please put the feet on first, because we don't want these to get any stiffer before we add stuff on. If we wait for our clay to get like leather hard, sometimes it's not a good connection for what we add on. So that's why we want to do feet first and then scoop. If you need to keep paddling, obviously paddle first, then blow dry, and feet first, all that jazz, okay? Question?
Do we need to mold the foot clay?
Huh?
Wedge.
Right, yep. Anytime you get new clay, it has to be wedged, okay?
Right. So wedge it, then make a foot, then spray.
Yep.
Alright.
Alright, so get your stuff out. If you're not sure where you're at,
Make a foot, then
let me know. Yes, foot first.
Should we?